Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us tonight on Lace Out. Usually we're joined by Peps. He does the introduction for you all, but I feel tonight, as a podcast community, we need to come forward and really speak on some distressing images that were released on Friday night on 14th. It's come to our attention as a Lace Out podcast community that there has been some graphic videos that have circulated in our circles for quite a few weeks, and as a club, we want to get on the front foot with this, with you all, and apologise. It is unbecoming of two podcast hosts to, one, leave a game early, two, talk about their club and their heartless manner in which they conduct themselves, and three, bring in an AFL and club legend into the video, and then at the end we saw some distressing footage and abuse on some jam donuts. The person responsible for this video is joining us tonight, and I believe he has put together a bit of some words to explain his actions, and also just to share with his thoughts as to why he decided to leave the game early, which, as we all know as football lovers, is the most cardinal sin that you can commit as a supporter. So, without further ado, Chris Pepper, do you want to just address some of these with our community, please?
I'd like to thank you, Jamie, and thank you, audience, for listening in. Yes, it's myself, not Peps and J-Dog. It's just Christopher Pepper here. To ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children, chairman of the VRC, and distinguished guests, I would like to wholly apologise for my actions on Friday night. The video of me was very unbecoming, and my premature adjudication of the game and its outcome wasn't forthcoming of what I believe as not just an AFL member, a Melbourne Football Club member, more importantly, a member of the football community. I do have to admit that I was wrong. I totally went early by first of all leaving the game, and there is no excuse. It's un-Australian. It's like not having sauce on your sausage and bread. It's un-Australian. You just don't do it. And I would like to apologise for everybody who saw those graphic images of me walking out with my two jam donuts. And I'd also like to apologise for bringing the great name of Jim Steins into my rant. At the time of the video, I was very, very disappointed. I was very, very upset. Very, very frustrated at the goings-on of the game. And at that time, I could not hold it any longer, and I thought it would be for the welfare of all the supporters sitting near me and for the benefit of the people in Bay 63 of the MCG that I leave. But thus, Melbourne decided to kick 4 goals in the last 7 minutes, and I thought that I was a winner by leaving early, but I was truly the biggest loser. And that was without losing 45 kilos. So to the Melbourne Football Club, I do apologise for my rant. I was the one who ended up paying the biggest penalty. I'll probably have received at least over 50, 60 messages, video calls from everybody in the Lace Out Facebook community, friends and family, telling me my actions were pathetic and for it to never happen again. So I do apologise to everybody right now. I know a lot of people have been waiting for this, and it's probably going to get a little bit raunchier in the next few minutes as well too. So before we kick off the show, apologies to everybody. It will not happen again. And like the doctor said, Chris, you have to take your medicine. And bad times aren't that bad, and the good times aren't always that good.
Thank you. And before we close it up for this formal part of the show, Chris Pepper, you're the biggest dickhead. I don't know why you decided to leave the game early. You knew that was going to happen. Like, in the third quarter, you saw the exact same pattern. You called me on the way out and you said, I'm done, I'm out. I said, Chris, you better stay there for this game because you're not out of it.
Yep.
You walked out. You were starting to even chastise poor children walking out of the game. You are the biggest dickhead. I cannot believe you left the game early for that. There is no reason why you should have done that. You're an MCC member. It cost you nothing to get in the first place, and then you decide to sprout at everyone walking out, trying to enjoy their Friday night, and you're just going off at them. And then you go and just abuse people waiting in the line for the jam donuts.
Well, before I get into that, Jay,
There was a lot going on, Peps, and
there's a lot to go on, and I'll unpack it very, very shortly. But before I get into that rebuttal on that one, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Round 18 review, hosted by myself, Chris I Leave Early Pepper, and the great man, Jamie the J-Dog Wallace. We're going to have a massive show tonight. We've already got off on an absolute cracker. Yes, I did leave early. It was pathetic, and everybody can get stuck into me because you just don't leave a game 15 minutes like I did, Jamie, cracking the proverbial shits and then realising that your team is going to win by kicking 4 goals in 7 minutes.
as you were walking to the car, I was
As I'm
texting.
walking to the car. But look, it's going to be a cracker of a show. We're going to go through all the usual stories. Give us a like. Tell everybody how awesome we are. Give us a review. But look, I'm just going to park all that right now because we thank everybody who's joining us live on the chat. They're already getting stuck into me. They're already getting stuck into everything that I've done. But Jamie, I know this has been planning well. Look, I'm an idiot. I'll be honest. We had a bit of fun with it at the start, but I was an idiot. I've left a game twice in my life. One was against St Kilda when we were, I think, 4th or 5th on the ladder, and they were 17th or 16th, and they beat us. That was a bad, bad day. But what I did on the weekend, I think it was just frustrations building, Jamie. Nothing was going right. We started like a health on fire. I thought everything was going to go perfect. They smashed us in the second and third quarter, and I said, I've had enough of this. And then after Stephen May gave Joey Danaher a little nudge in the side, my goodness, he got 3-8s from the Lithuanian, the Bulgarian, and the Trinidad and Tobago judges for his dive, and that just pushed me over the edge. I said, I can't watch this anymore. The game's gone to shit. I'm getting out of here. I thought I'd give you a call. You're giving me text messages saying left, right, and centre, hey, we're back into this. We're back in. Don't go. Gordon's tearing it apart. And I've already gone. I've got Craig Wessels from the United States of America going, can you get back into the game, Peps? I'm like, yeah, I could, but I was too far down. I was 2 donuts down, and once you've had your donuts, that's the end of the game. You don't worry about it. And then you got me in, is he going to dob it? Is he going to dob it? And he dobbed it, and, well, didn't I cop it? I copped it from my mum and dad. I copped it from my wife. I copped it from my kids. I copped it from the people at the football club. I copped it from the people at the footy. I copped it from... I copped it on Messenger. I copped phone calls. I copped it from my mother-in-law's, my sister-in-law's mum. Everybody got stuck into me about leaving a game early, and just don't do it. Like I said, football is like that box of chocolates, and you never know what you're going to get. And I tell you what, I threw out the Turkish Delights thinking that they're no good. But those Turkish Delights turned into hazelnut whirls in that last 7 minutes. And now I look like a complete fool because everybody's going to go, it was the game of the season. And I wasn't there to see it. Well, the last 7 minutes. Anyway.
Well, I was going to ask for your detailed description of what the last 15 minutes was like of that game. Can you just give me a rundown of the last 15 minutes as a supporter sitting in the crowd?
Okay, so really quickly, the interesting thing is that, and if you saw the video,
yep.
I wasn't the only Melbourne supporter who cracked the living shits that night and walked out. I reckon there was probably another 100 plus. Well, let's say 100 plus. There was quite a few walking around the outskirts of the MCG, especially coming out of the MCC area. So they must have turned the Grange off early, or the cheese boards had run out of 12-year-old cheddar. But people walking around going, this is shit. No, there was merino. There were merino scarves in the bin. There were half-empty 20-year-old bottles of Grange just sitting next to the garbage cans. It was carnage. It was like a ride out there. And I thought, no, I've had enough. And we were walking out. I grabbed my donuts and I walked off. But the thing was that when you were texting me,
yep.
I'm like, nah, it's not going to happen, Jamie. It's not going to happen. And the funny thing is, if you could see that the conversation, what you were just getting stuck into me, like Gorn was tearing it apart. And every time they kicked a goal, I'm just like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And then it kept going. It kept going. It kept going. The love machine is getting stuck into me. He goes, you left early, you piss weak prick. Everybody was getting... My 7-year-old nephew was even going, Uncle Chris, we won and you missed it. Like, everybody was just getting stuck. And how I like to watch the game, I don't like listening to it. I don't like watching it. I like watching the Telstra tracker. And when the Telstra tracker had all those little numbers up at our end of the ground for virtually that last 7 minutes, and it just kept going goal, goal, goal. I thought, oh, no, they can't do it. And they did.
It was so good. It was so good. Anyway, Anyway,
Exactly right.
Peps.
So I know it's taken us 9.5 minutes to get to this point, but geez, it was one of the biggest cock ups. I reckon it was the biggest cock up I've ever experienced in football because I've normally got stuck into people. I never leave games early. For some reason, just it was like a volcano, and I just burst.
Look, Peps, maybe the writing's on the wall with A and B's first goal of the game and all of
Oh,
that. It was one of those. It was a dirty night for
A
the
and
Pepper
B,
family.
everyone was just giving it to Big Trev because A and B. Alex Neil Bullen is my dad's Big Trev's. Just can't stand him. Just he could kick 10. You go should have kicked 11. Like that's what he thinks of him, right? And he's kicked the first one. He's copped the old double digits. My brother's sitting 3 bays across from where we were sitting, and he's giving it, Big Trev. Even my nephew's giving it, Grandpa. Like it was just awesome. But look, it was from a football perspective. It was a cracking game. Actually, this weekend of footy wasn't bad all round. Like I want to know how you're feeling after Port lost, which I did pick. Well, you're not going to win when you drop what 7 players out from the week before. It's going to make it very, very difficult. I don't care who you are. But from a weekend football perspective, it was absolutely belter. It was
Not bad.
cherry ripe across the board.
There's some floggings, but there's also some tight games.
Oh, there was tight games, there were floggings, and there was some in the middle. Would you say upsets, depending on how you look at it? But I think it was the weekend that we had to have to sort of throw everything up. The final 8 is still not looking set.
No.
The top 4 looking a little bit more set. I reckon after this weekend, it will really shape itself up because it is looking good at the way it is at the moment. But there's still games where, like top teams, like you played Collingwood this week. Like crikey, that's gonna either bring Brisbane and Melbourne back to the pack or it's going to separate you. So there's just everything setting up for a cracking finish to the season, which we haven't had in quite a long time.
Well, let's not give away the show in the first 15 minutes of this
Sorry.
podcast. But let's go with the. What do you want to do, Peps? Do you want to spin the magnets, or do you want to?
We're going to get into the ladder, but
Ladder first.
Absolute superstar Tory's just joined us. And yes, Tory, if you just rewind the first 9 minutes, J-Dog has got stuck into me. Everybody on the chat's got into me. 60-odd people got stuck into me as well too. So please, get stuck into me. I absolutely deserved it. But I really want to bring up the ladder because it's interesting just looking at the way things are going. Round 18 as we speak. Come on, ladder. Where are you? Where's the ladder? Where's the ladder? There it is. All right. Collingwood on top of the AFL ladder. 1 game clear of Port Adelaide, which had the loss on the weekend. Brisbane on 48 points. So they're a couple of games behind, but it's going to get interesting now. I think there's a bit of pressure on Port, but we'll get into that very, very shortly. The Melbourne Football Club on 44 now. They've been able to extend their lead out to 6 points. So Geelong have to win at least 2 more games before Melbourne do to get that pinch that 4th spot. But who would have seen the Cats coming from where they've been over the last number of weeks? And what they did against Essendon was the Geelong of old, and geez, you wouldn't want to be playing them in September. St Kilda had a flopper. Western Bulldogs had a flopper. Essendon had a flopper. So they're only in their due to percentage at the moment. The GWS Giants, 5th win, I think 5th win in a row, them as well, and they are coming home with a wet sail. Carlton had a cracking win. I think it's their 5th win in a row as well. Richmond did what Richmond had to do against West Coast. Adelaide had a fizzer. Gold Coast, they've still got a sniff, but their percentages are pretty woeful at 94.6, but they're also on 32 points. Sydney with their nail biter, healthy percentage of 30, but there's still 2 games literally outside the 8. So it's going to be with, 6 games to go. It's going to make it a bit tough to get there. Fremantle on 28. Hawthorn are putrid, and North Melbourne and Wet Toast. Don't even worry about them. But I'm going to give their supporters a bit of pat on the back too because they have been sensational. So if I was a gambling man right now,
Yes.
I would say there is a lot of pressure on St Kilda and maybe the Western Bulldogs. Essendon, they do play West Coast and North, so there's 2 wins there, so they're pretty much guaranteed. And I do have a bit of a feeling that GWS and one team, I don't think Adelaide will make it. I thought they would have, but their cock up on the weekend is going to cause them issues. Carlton could make it, and Gold Coast if everything, because Gold Coast are playing some pretty good football at the moment. I reckon there's maybe 2 spots, but I think St Kilda are going to miss. I just think they're going to run out of steam for the 2nd year in a row. What are your thoughts?
I think top 5 are probably no. Top 4 set. Everything else up to play still.
Okay. Look, I think Geelong, with their record at home, is going to make it very difficult for them to drop out.
Correct.
Melbourne, they still play Hawthorn, they still play North, so they've got a couple of wins there. They don't play a team inside the 8 for the rest of the season, which is great, but they've still got a couple of tough ones in Richmond and also Adelaide this week too. So it's not going to be super easy, and also Carlton as well too. But it's a great finish to the season because over many years by now everything's usually locked in. For the first time in a while, we've got not just one spot, we've got probably 3 spots up for grabs. And that's what's great about our game. We absolutely love it for reasons like this too. So it's awesome. I love it, J-Dog. Absolutely love it.
All right, let's go through some of the questions that people have come through with Peps on the right hand side of our screen there.
Beautiful. All right, let's go through some of the things. Love you, Pep. Been waiting for the pasting. Do we need to call you Jim the Pie Lover? No, Craig Jones. It was a Nutella donut and a Jane donut. They've called me Mr. Premature.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Someone's been speaking to my wife. They love me, Pep, but I mucked up. Yep, I get it. What else have we got here? The Love Machine was there. Ask him. Yeah, my brother was there. He'll tell you. Melbourne actually winning helped Port. That's what I'll ask you about, Jamie, because you had your loss on the weekend, but it just gave you that little bit of breathing room for that top spot. Because do you honestly think if you finished third, do you reckon you'd have to win that first away final, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to. You'd be going to Brisbane.
Yeah.
Is there a chance, though, that you will drop out of top 2?
No.
Is Collingwood going to lose at any time soon?
That's a good question.
Will the Giants sneak into the finals?
No. No.
And he has a feeling the Dogs will sneak into the top 4, pipping Melbourne. Well, Craig, here's the thing. Western Bulldogs have got no idea how to play football. They're a good team, but as a collective, they do not know how to play football, and they don't know how to win at the moment. And they are a sneaky chance. I know that they're probably going to be maybe one team that might potentially pop out because their draw is not exactly easy.
They're just unpredictable. Western Bulldogs.
They are unpredictable. They are. Melbourne are either predictably good or predictably bad, but we can tell in the first 5 minutes whether they're on or off. But the Doggies, like, the Bont absolutely killed it. But unless they're forward line, unless Norton kills it or Ugle-Hagan kills it, they're not going to.
Waitman gets involved, yeah.
They don't. I think they rely on. Melbourne had 10 different goal kickers on the weekend. I think it's very rare that the Doggies have more than 6 or 7. So they rely on too few, and they rely on the Bont a hell of a lot as well too. If the Bont has a quiet game, their engine room doesn't. I just don't think their engine room runs that well, and their backline's susceptible. So I think they're a massive chance of maybe 7 or 8 potentially missing out. But I don't know. We've still got a number of rounds to go.
It's that glut of teams
back into me, which is what we want to see, and I deserve it. But there's lots of banter coming in as we speak too, which is really good.
So Peps, I'm looking at that. 5th down to 11. So Cats down to Tigers can all still make it.
You'd say so, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So Craigie Jones has written here: the Dogs can beat the Bombers. I don't think they can beat the Bombers. The Giants in Ballarat. Well, the Giants are playing some pretty good football. They've only been blown away once this year. So they're in really good nick, and they're playing some really good footy. So that's not going to be a given down in Ballarat, but the Frostbite will give them. Richmond, 50-50. Hawks, they should win that. Weagles, they should win that. The only game they might drop is Geelong in Geelong. Well, I reckon they could potentially lose 1, 2, 3, 4. I reckon they could lose half their games. If you look at it collectively, the way they played on the weekend, they could lose collectively half those games. Could. Will they? Different story. There's another question that's popped in, but I'm going to get to that a little bit later on because it has been a talking point across the airwaves for quite a while. It's one that Craigie Jones has dropped in regarding to a certain ruckman from a certain club that I left early on the weekend about as well too. Hey, big boy.
Yes.
I reckon we should spin some Magnus, I reckon.
Done.
Let me go with the first ones. I reckon we'll start with a bit of this.
3 votes.
All right, 3 votes. First of all, I want to give 3 votes for this week. First of all, I'd love to give footy. Because football in general, votes. Okay? 2 thrillers on Thursday and Friday night. So a 2-pointer and a 1-pointer. The Blues are back. Geelong are putting on the big boy pants. GWS are rocking along. And Collingwood do what Collingwood do. It was just a really good weekend. A nice reality check for a few teams as well too. I'll even say, even though Brisbane lost, they played some cracking footy. And for that Brisbane hoodoo that they've got, I don't think they've got one anymore. They built Melbourne last year and they got within a point. So they know how to play. They couldn't have played any better. It's just one of those things that happen. If we had probably another minute, the situation could have been different. Okay. Hey, more importantly, if Daniher's goal that he shot that bounced straight up on the goal line and bounced back went in, it'd be a different story altogether. All right.
Peps.
Yep.
3 votes. I'm going to put one in. 3 votes. 666.
Wait.
3 votes.
Yep.
666. Look at what it did for the Friday night thriller.
Oh, about time it actually did something, didn't it?
Brisbane couldn't just drop a player off behind and then just clog it up and put maybe 2 behind. They had to play 666 structure.
Yeah.
It's all coming up 666.
Coming up roses. It's all coming up 666, number of the beast. And yes, Roo Boy, I did leave. All right. Another one is nobody beats Port Adelaide, 13 times in a row? 14 times in a row.
For what's that? 13 times in a row?
Yeah, no one beats Port Adelaide 13 times in a row. Port Adelaide don't get beaten 13 times in a row. So it was actually good to see them lose, and I think it was the loss that they had to have. It wasn't actually a loss. It was a smacking. You did have 7 out. I'll give you that. And let's be honest, when you don't have your full forward, you don't have one of your gun midfielders and one of your backmen isn't in there, it's going to make it a little bit difficult.
Yeah, they played well.
But Carlton played some really good football, and they got 5 in a row, which is hard to believe. The pitchforks and the stakes.
I'm on board. Carlton ship.
You're on the blue ball. You're on the blue baggers.
On board. I
did go past the office today, and I saw a few Carlton supporters, and I was looking for their bandwagon. Couldn't find it anywhere. Now I'm going to give not just 3 votes, but I'm also going to give a round of applause. I have to give a round of applause to North Melbourne and West Coast supporters, because to turn up week after week after week and seeing what your teams are serving up, which is absolute tripe. All right, your teams are poo, but you still turn up every week, and that is the mark of a supporter base that embracing the bad times, but the good times are going to come. I've been through it. You've been through it. You would have thought that the world was ending after you lost by 100 and how many points to the grand final?
What grand final?
2007, you cuts. Was it 127? Was that how much it was?
I've done it.
Rounded off to 130.
2007.
Rounded off to 130, but it was a shocker. But for those guys, 118 things.
No, 19. Charlie Keegan.
119. But no, it was good. So just to see those guys turning up week after week is a testament to yourself. So it's a nice little pat on the back. All right. We know where this is going.
Haley off, Ellingworth on. Bloody weakest piss.
All right, first and foremost.
Can I go first?
Yes.
Chris, can I please drag Christopher J. Pepper, please? Top nomination, probably the winner. Like, I'm talking might and power, length over the field.
You know what the worst thing is? I actually put myself in there too. I'm dragging me after Friday night. I've got no excuses. I am just a shit bloke. I'm just a shit bloke who left his team hanging.
Oh dear! And I think Craig Jones might have notes to our show tonight.
I think he has. I think he literally has the notes to our show which is interesting because we don't really have that many notes. We have a couple of topics and that's about it. But
chicken scratchings.
Chicken scratchings. He's been listening and watching our show for years. He knows exactly what's going on, and he knows he can read our minds as well too. Can I chuck in the AFLW in there, J-Dog?
Ooh.
I drag them as well too. Now, I'm not dragging the women themselves, but whoever's organising that comp, how can you have an 18-team comp with 10 rounds?
Doesn't make sense, does it?
You could have gone 9. You could have gone 12, but you went 10. I think the Players Association and the players themselves and the clubs wanted 12 games, but they went with 10. It's just amateur hour, isn't it?
No, so they play another...
So they must split them into 2 conferences. They play each team
Once plus 1.
plus 2. You don't play yourself.
Oh yeah, of course, plus 2. Okay.
Just, I don't like it. So until they play each other once, they're not going to be taken seriously, which is not
It'll be a TV thing, Peps. It's a TV money thing. You know that.
TV money.
What else is what else is getting dragged?
I also have to chuck in. Hey, does anyone tag? Jamie, does anybody tag
Anymore? No.
Like, I'm just going to keep going about this.
Oh, God. If you keep going, I'm going to leave the show again.
No, don't leave the show again. But I'm sick of coaches going. We've got to stick to our team defense. We've got to stick to our zone defense or whatever. Mate, check your ego in at the door and just tag someone. Dacos got off the chain.
Oh, God.
Parker gets off the chain. Butters gets off the chain. Bloody Cripps got off the chain. Like, Greg Williams would rack up 60 if he was playing in this league right now. It's a joke. Like, you're telling me that one person can't be sacrificed for the many.
Oh,
it's bullshit, Jamie.
I knew.
Shit.
Whenever I hear the word you talk about tag, I know that Dacos is going to be somewhere around the next word that follows.
Can I also
throw... I left the show for 10 weeks.
Can I also say it again? I said on the tweets last week, and I got a bit of a ripping over this as well. I said Nick Dacos is a sheepdog because he only gets easy balls. That was after the first quarter. Then I watched the rest of the game. He had 36.
Yeah.
He's a freak.
He's decent.
He's decent. I'm taking that one back. Completely taken. But I do miss a tag. Like Charlie Keegan. See, I miss a good old-fashioned tag. I don't care how many free kicks they give away. I just want to see them scrap and scary to put their head over the ball. It's not even about that. It's just, just pushing their attack on the ball at a pack or just not making it easy for them.
Yeah, blocking. What's a blocking?
Just blocking, locking, like Hendo Rick.
Who was it?
Lingy?
I don't think who. No. Who was? I was watching something. What was it? What game was I watching? The Freo game? No, it wasn't Freo. Anyway, whoever it was, borderline was giving away free kicks, but that's the kind of body-on-body blocking out of the contest, taking away run paths through clearances.
That's what we want.
That's what you want to see.
Well, Lee Ali, Fang, who was supposed to join me 3 weeks ago and still hasn't joined us on the show, he wrote here, weren't you tagged on a weekly basis, Pep? Mate, I was tagged. I had 2 on me every week. 2.
Interesting strategy, taking a back pocket.
I was dangerous. Very dangerous.
Peps.
Even when I was on crutches, they still had 2 on me.
Peps.
Yep.
We did skip one here. I don't know if you saw Mr. Jones's message there. Morris Rioli.
Oh.
Is he in the winners or the losers category? Because I kind of think it's the best.
I think it's grouse. I love the way he's just giving him, don't give me the phone. I don't want to hear it.
Classic.
So the last thing you want to be doing is when you've had an absolute mare of a game and you've been dragged and you've been subbed, the coach to go, now here's the reason why. Look, mate, I've had 1 kick. I don't need to be told how shit I am. Because we've all been there. We've had mares. We know you've had a mare. You know when you've had a blinder, like when the runner comes out to me and goes, go the other way, I am on fire. But when the runner comes out to you when you're having a shocker, you just look at him and go, oh, fuck, they're coming out to me.
Yeah, you know it.
You know it.
You eyeball them across the field.
You're like, and they just look at you and go, Peps, sorry, mate. It's like they're taking you after you've had your last meal down to the executioner. You're gone.
Classic. Loved it.
I love that sort of stuff as well too. Bugger. Okay. Rick Barry, my ex-coach. You were the decoy for the quality, Pep.
Burn.
Thanks, Rambo. Takes a decoy coach to put a decoy for the quality. Okay. J-Dog, can I go into the Rising Star this week? I'm going to go into the Rising Star.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm actually happy to see this one, and not because he's a Melbourne guy. But when you see a young bloke who's having a crack and he's been put into a team, who's playing all right, but you just watch him and you go, he's just good. This guy's good. Judd McVie is this week's Rising Star for round 18. He's actually put on a really good debut season, and he hasn't missed a game since debut. And the only reason he got a game is because Christian Salem had his thyroid problem, so they had to put him in. Perfect. He collected 14 disposals, including 7 intercept possessions, 5 contested, went at 85%. He is from WA. He has signed an extra 2 years, and I love the cut of this man's jib. He is an absolute weapon. And just one of those guys that when you watch him, you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Miles Bergman. Do you know how Miles Bergman are like, he got his time and he's just taken it and run with it?
Mm-hmm.
It's like that as well too. He reminds me of
Impressive.
a bit of Laverde from Essendon, where he's just like he's been a little bit wishy-washy for a while, but took his opportunity this year and it's actually probably say last year, completely run with it. I love those type of players too, and they're ones that I go, he's okay to now. He'd be first picked because you just know what you're going to get, reliability. So
Okay.
good luck to Judd McVie. Hey, who would you say is winning the rising star at the moment? It's coming down to pretty much Ashcroft, Cheezel, Mitch Owens. They're probably throwing a bit of G, miss. Before we go any further, before you answer that, I've got to bring somebody in. He hasn't been on, but he's finally joining us. He's on the couch. Lee Ali Fang.
Pep, how are you, buddy? J-Dog.
Mate, you're just sitting on the couch taking it easy. For weeks we've been... For the people watching this now, show him the Fang. Show him the Fang. Hey! And when he ran into a headwind, down at West Coburg, he could have whistled. Hey,
Hang on.
What? He's an absolute gun, J-Dog.
That was me trademark on the field, Pep.
What's that?
That was me golden trademark at East Keilor.
Trademark. You didn't even have to call his name, or you just listen for the whistle. Now, really quickly, we didn't play in this. We did play this a couple of weeks ago, but you got to play with the great man CJ Pepper. Just in 20 goods or less. What was it like to grace the field running around with the likes of me?
Mate, I felt like I was running on the MCG with the Western Bulldogs Football Club in 2016.
Oh, see? How good is that? Get better than that.
Great team, Pep. We had Pato, yourself,
You?
who else? Edgar, the president at the time.
Oh, Eggy.
Stavala, Maka.
Oh, it just didn't get better than that, did it? Just got better than that. Now,
Mate,
J-Dog, do you want to ask Fang any questions before we get back into the show? Because the other time he looks like he's had about 6 cans as well, too, by the way.
7.
7. Any questions you want for Fang about my career or anything that you want to ask him, why he loves the show before he departs, aka we boot him?
Sure. It's a visual one here, so please, Fang, blink twice if Peps has got you captive somehow. Are you in trouble? Blink twice. No?
Nah, he's just a lovable bloke,
how
mate.
much money?
Everyone loves the Pep.
All right. Does Peps have you on fast pay for payments? Like, is there a 50? Is there a 20 involved?
Not even a fiver, mate.
All I ever gave him was a footy lace out. Week after week.
No.
Well, good on you, fellas. Love the show.
Thanks. Absolutely. Lee Ali, absolute superstar. Now, if you ever want to jump onto the show, just let us know. We'll drop the link in the chat. Jump on, say hi, get your face up, tell all your friends and family how awesome we are, and they might even see your face as well too. So, Journey to the draft. I'm so pumped about this one. Journey to the draft. You ready for this, J-Dog?
Sure.
Our guy, Jacob Grant. Can I just tell you the story? Wow, freaking we. Last week, he wasn't even picked to play for Vic Country. Gets the phone call Friday night. You're in. One of the forwards has gone down. He's in. Turns up against Vic Metro yesterday. What a final game. 2 goals. Took an absolute hanger of a pack mark in the third quarter. Slotted it from the boundary and had another from 40 metres out straight in front to finish the end of the game. A great way to finish the Metro, the Australian Championships, and also put the recruiters on notice. Because I reckon because I heard during the broadcast, recruiters are looking for moments, and he had a couple of absolute corkers. One, tell you what, I should put the video up. If you can go and have a look, go third quarter, about 10 minutes in, it's on KO or all your favourite streaming services, and have a look at the mark he took. Boom, shakalaka, it was an absolute ripper. So our boy, going to the draft, baby. Can't wait. All right, big boy.
Yes.
Where do you want to go now? It's up to you.
Let's just talk about some of the things, some of the footy stuff.
Let's talk about
footy
the
news.
Stuff. Let's talk about the footy stuff. All right. Now, Did we go into the sacking of Stewie Jew last week? Much
Too early.
Too early. It was too early, wasn't it? Because it happened Tuesday.
Tuesday morning.
Tuesday morning, wasn't it?
No, I don't get my audio for this one here, Peps. You're just raw dogging it, are you? Okay, done. All right, so Stewie Jew, no surprise to anyone at all, has departed the Suns Football Club after, I don't know, some amount of time with the football club, leading it 6 years, 5 years, something like that. No finals again. It's the cursed chalice that no coach wants to ever go to, and yeah.
Okay.
What was the breaking point, Peps? No finals, or was it the Max King? It was the Max King effect. Maybe just because he dragged. Sorry, Ben King.
I'll just think.
Okay.
No, I think.
Sorry, before you answer that one there, I asked first.
They would actually smash it.
Before you go there,
yep.
Do the Suns have something to answer for the weeks of coming out saying that nothing, that's off the table, the sacking is off the table, and then they led down that path?
I think it's pretty amateur hour, isn't it? I think even Caro was right.
Caro's 100% right.
I've had a few people come out and say, look, I can't stand her as a person. So be it. I can't say what other people think. That's up to them. But she was right. I think the smashing against Collingwood was the straw that broke the camel's back. And with the board, I don't know. Boards are filled with people that'll be never bees and have beens that still want to live through players and through clubs.
At a club as small as them, does the board have too much say?
No. I think the only reason they would have got rid of him was because they had someone. Potentially. But here's the question I have for you, right? And this relates to your team because this now sort of floats into what we're talking about. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You lose on the weekend. Port Adelaide lose. They've been talking about sign Hinkley up, sign Hinkley up, sign Hinkley up.
Yep.
Yeah, we know that's not going to happen until at least August, into the season.
Mm-hmm.
If you were Ken Hinkley and Gold Coast came to you with a 5-year deal and Port were only giving you 2, what would you do?
Gold Coast.
So who's to say it's automatically going to be Hardwick?
No, I think it's convenient timing on that behalf, but I think that there's probably 3 clubs that are probably probably all holding pistols to each other because I know that Port Adelaide supporters would like to have Josh Carr.
Yep.
And I know that Richmond are probably looking at going, well, he's doing it right over there. Is that someone we could bring in over to Richmond? I would be filthy as a supporter of Port Adelaide to lose Josh Carr to Richmond. But the Suns need a coach. Maybe Hardwick, but Hardwick has no guarantee. No. If they go to Ken Hinkley and Ken goes up to them, then that involves then does Josh Carr stay on with us or does Richmond jump early, sign Josh Carr, and then we're kind of left in real strife because instead of going a 2-year deal to Ken, we have to offer 4 to keep a coach. Yep. Otherwise, Gold Coast are going to poach him for 5.
And the risk you're going to run is that if you go with a coach who's been there for a while, that's no guarantee he's going to be a gun either.
Correct.
Okay. Remember Chris Bond? Chris Bond, I reckon for half the jobs in the AFL couldn't get one.
Yep.
But apparently was awesome as a assistant coach. Rambo Kafari has come up with what are the ramifications on the board if they make finals or just fall short? Well, this is the thing. Is it because whenever this stuff happens, the coach is always held to account, the players are never held to account, and the board is never held to account. The board usually gets off scot-free. Now, I do believe one of the board members from Gold Coast has departed shores. But if I was a board member and they make finals, I don't think you can get rid of the CEO, and I don't think you can get rid of the head of football, but anybody else who decided with that, you would have to have a pretty hard look at yourself. And that's where the members, and unfortunately when you're a club that's basically an AFL subsidiary, which is what they are, it's not going to really matter. Now, if that happened with with Collingwood, remember they got rid of they made a grand final and they got rid of Malthouse.
Well, it was the same situation that Port could potentially be facing. Someone
Exactly
poaching
right.
the coach that they've got, and that's what happened. I think North was sniffing around Buckley.
Mm-hmm.
They jumped early, and then they went on to win a grand final with the coach that they were kicking out.
Exactly right. So I think that the board have to be held accountable, but they won't be. They can't do anything at the moment. Now, football's, and if you even want to take that one step further, what about the call on the weekend where I think it was Gillard McLaughlin said that AFL will be taking over as the number one sport in Queensland in about 5 years' time?
Interesting.
Well, I reckon AFL is just gunning it up there at the moment.
Well, it's probably got a lot of expats from Victoria and New South Wales during COVID to go up there.
Exactly right. So I wouldn't be surprised because rugby league is like, it's a TV sport.
It's a
Let's be
TV
honest,
sport.
it's a TV sport. It's not even a real sport. If you look up the world
God.
classification of the sport, rugby league is not an actual sport. It's not classified as an actual sport. Look it up.
Well, I think league, you're right, but probably union is different.
No. Union is, league isn't.
Yeah.
Because it's stupid. You run forward 5 times and then you give it back to the opposition after the 6th.
Kick it back to them.
Yep. And look, Rambo Kafari, the old Mr. Port Douglas himself, he's an absolute superstar, Rambo. He's living up there at the moment. He goes up there quite a fair bit. AFL is now huge in far north Queensland.
Yeah.
It's only going to get bigger. It is only going to get bigger. So, Craigie Jones said Carr as due with an assistant. I think Stewie Dew's got a lot to offer in football, but I don't know. It's just a shit situation across the board.
Yeah, 100%. 100% a shit situation. Look, I still don't believe the Suns can make the 8. I think that's kind of done now.
Well, you never know. I don't.
They're relying on losses. That's what they're relying on.
But they've got a good young. Once again, if you were Ken Hinkley, would you stay at Port knowing, look, you're probably getting the maximum out of that group right now for 1 year? Because I don't know if it's going to be sustainable for 2 or 3 once Dixon goes, once Port goes, Wines finishes up. I don't know if it's going to be sustainable. I'll be wrong. You can tell me more about that. Or would you rather go up where you've got Lukosius, Anderson, Ballard, Rowell, etc., so forth?
I think it just comes down to probably just the basic human needs that we all have as just job security.
Yep, exactly. Job security. Interesting, that one, isn't it? After today. So I think they're in a little bit of trouble up there as well too. But
Yeah.
this will pan itself out. If I had to put my money on it, I would say Hardwick's going up there. But if they did offer Hinkley and it depends if he wants to relocate to Queensland or whether he wants to relocate to Adelaide.
Well, he was there, so
Yeah.
he's probably got existing things. What else, Peps, is happening around the world?
Yeah, there's not much going on at the moment. Like it's just a matter of the games coming. I think that's the best thing about it is like we normally come on with stories, bits and pieces that we have to get stuck into. But this week it's mainly been the due one. But outside of that, it's literally been footy has been.
All right, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Did you happen to watch the North Melbourne versus Hawthorn game yesterday?
No, I was out for a fair bit of it. But from what I've heard, it could possibly be the worst game of football that anybody has seen all season.
I think if you were a video editor for the AFL, you would have been strapping the film cutting floor to find a 3-minute highlight package of that whole game.
You reckon, you know how they do like they have the full game and then they do the KO mini and the KO bite? They just got the KO bite this week. There wasn't enough of the mini.
There's a 1 minute package.
Maybe they just played the mini, the bite twice to get enough quality footage. I heard on the radio it wasn't too. You know the game is going bad when Triple M are putting footage of the guy breaking his seat whilst he's commentating as a highlight of the game.
Yeah, it wasn't the prettiest game. So for those, as I said, I know you sort of went with the North and West Coast supporters. Yeah. For those who went to that game at Marvel yesterday, well done. You must have a lot of money to just throw at a game like that.
One of our favourites, Heathy Buxton, went. And I think his quote was something along the lines of, if you give me a moment to try and find it.
Well, whilst you're doing that,
He
it was
goes,
Peps. I'm talking drop marks everywhere, inconsistent kicks, like wide open kicks, 20 meters spare of a fella around him.
Yeah.
Miss.
This is what he said.
Kick out the full.
As for North, they are in a worse position than the West Coast Eagles. They are pathetic. Coach is still in limbo. No support. That was the worst game I've ever watched. And thank Christ vodka, even at $14.99 a can. That's how he described the Hawthorn North game from yesterday.
Yeah. It was the it was I don't know. It was the coal of a diamond couple of games for.
Just say it was shit.
It wasn't great. It wasn't great.
It was shit.
Peps.
No surprise.
No.
Nick Dacos is leading the coaches' votes as well too. Petrarca is second. He's got a 15-vote gap.
Yeah,
it's
huge.
It's massive. So he's probably going to take that one out. I know it's something that we've spoken about over the next couple of weeks, going into it a little bit more, but there's no real point because he's going to win everything. He's going to have a Dusty Martin season outside of maybe win a flag. Like, it's just at 20 years, he's a freak. It's getting towards that. Dusty's 2017 season was arguably the best season of football ever by anybody. This guy could do it at 20. That is some scary stuff. All righty. And let's have a look at the matches in this week's edition of
Scoreboard.
All right, Thursday night, we know that the game happened between the magnificent Sydney Swans and Western Bulldogs. A 2-point victory to Sydney. This was actually a pretty good game, but I just like the way that Sydney just kept going, didn't stop whatsoever, and it almost felt like the Bulldogs did, and Sydney didn't. And happily, 4. At one stage, it was Buddy missing a few shots, and I'm like, oh, then they're going to do it again like they did the week before, but they held their nerve this week. I will ask you a question. Is Isaac Heaney one of the most overrated downhill skiing players you've seen in the last 2 to 3 years?
No, because he wears pink boots and he's excellent, and I love it.
There's no need. Look, can we just stick to the football, Dolly Doctor? Okay,
I've had 10 weeks off this crap. You come on for 2 weeks and you talk about pink boots. No,
he's just like he hasn't dominated against good teams. I don't know when the last time he played a good game against a good, high quality team.
He hasn't done that for probably 2 years. He comes in and he'll put a 5 or 10 minute spurt on, and you're like, holy shit!
Yep.
And you just see pink boots everywhere. But I'd say in the last 2 years, Peps, or a year and a half, you're spot on the money. He just doesn't anymore.
It's like, why don't they move him into the midfield? At least give him a run down there as well too, because
why are they moving from the midfield?
No, he plays forward now. He doesn't even go to the back line at all.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, midfield as well. Sorry.
Yeah.
So look, that's a bit disappointing. The other disappointing thing is that where do you see the Bulldogs, big fella? I just don't. I don't know. Like, outside of the Bonds, and I would say Tom Liberatore, they're the only two I'd really trust in any game. Probably I'd throw in McRae as well. But outside of, I don't trust anybody. I can't trust Waitman kicking multiple goals every single week. I can't expect Ugle-Hagan to kick multiple goals every week. I don't see Bailey Smith didn't even play on the weekend. Well, they're just in limbo at the moment. When you're playing like that, I wouldn't. Yeah, it's a tough one at the moment because the Bond, he was everywhere. He had 31, close to 650 metres gained, 2 goals. He had 4 shots, 6 clearances, attended 92% of the centre bounce attempt. Like, he was everywhere. He was the only thing keeping them in the game.
I think, and I don't know if it's because Western Bulldogs have been a bit, obviously the grand final and stuff like that, but before all that, I don't see a player who can do any more in an AFL career than what he has done consecutively since the day he got at that club. He has carried, I feel like, that club for the best part of 10 years. Yeah. He's incredible. And you're right. You can't trust Norton. You can't trust Waitman. You can't trust... Ugle-Hagan will mark, and he's got a fantastic set of hands, but his kicking is just not there.
No. He's still young, but, like,
But Norton's not anymore. Norton's not young anymore. Waitman's not young anymore.
Norton's only 24. Waitman's only, I think it's his 21. I think his fourth season.
Yeah, but I mean, you would have thought they'd become more consistent at their marks and at their kicking.
The hardest position to play on the field is a small forward. It's the hardest position because you're not going to get the ball bombed into people, but he does take a good overhead mark, so I'll give him that. But
yeah,
he has to be at the big guy's feet all the time. There's only a couple really good small forwards. Like Toby Green's a freak. We know he's a freak. Charlie Cameron's a freak. But outside of that, there's not many that are consistently doing it too. So we know what happened on Friday night. He's won with 33 seconds to go, apparently, for those who were there. I will say one thing, though, and this was a question raised earlier on. Will Brodie Grundy go to Port? I don't know. The one thing that did come out of it is that you just got to let Max Gawn ruck.
I think you've experimented long enough now.
Yeah.
If you're serious about having a run at the finals, you have to just make a choice.
Yeah. And they've made the choice, and they got the choice right because, my God almighty.
My goodness, that last 15 minutes was the wall of Gawn.
Mate, so if I told you that a guy that's close to 7 foot had 29 disposals at 72%, 457 metres gained, 3 inside 50s, 21 contested possessions, 10 clearances,
how many marks?
A goal assist, 7 tackles.
Yeah.
Tracker was the tracker leaving forward, just leaving forward. Joe Danaher, awesome. Like he's not.
Port will take him if Collingwood and you guys are willing to chip in his wage. I'd love that.
Well, I would only pay $250. What would you give him? What would you give me for him?
Nothing.
You
don't want him. You don't want him. You don't want him.
Well, you want him?
Yeah, but you don't. So it's just going to be like on Facebook.
Marketplace?
Facebook trade.
Yeah, we'll scam you. You'll get a free watch as well.
You don't want them. You put on Nature Strip until 2 p.m. and then we just come and collect him.
Free to anybody. They're just Grundy out with his Vespa, his man bun, just sitting there, someone to pick him up.
Correct.
Look, Melbourne, great start, great finish. Brisbane, this is literally a 50-50 game. Like, if this ended up as a draw, both teams would be happy.
Yeah, look, I think you guys, at the end of every quarter, you were kicking more goals than them. You had more run. You had the game on control at the last 10 minutes of every quarter.
And both teams kicked over 100 points, which you don't see a lot of. So there was 32 goals kicked that game. 32-17. So really good scoring as well, too. And if you have a look at the stats across the board, milkshakes. And can I say, the milkshakes did bring the goals to the yard, and damn right, they were better than most. He did kick 3 on the full in the first quarter, Jake. So he did redeem himself.
He's back.
Look, I won't say that they were back, but Collingwood at the G, 46 points over Fremantle. There's not really much more you can say about Collingwood. I think it's just a wait and see. Let's see what happens in finals.
Yep. Fremantle just went to sleep in the second quarter, and Collingwood just went bang, bang, bang. Done. Game over.
All we have to say is we love it when Fremantle go backwards because we've got their first pick. And so at the moment, we've got pick 4 of the draft. Thank you, Freo. Oh.
Look, they rallied in the last quarter. I thought it was going to fly to 100 points, but they actually
Q was in the rack, mate. Q was in the rack. Our boy, Lace Out's favourite, Nick Dacos. He only got 8 coaches' votes. Taylor Adams got 9. But there's nothing more I can say about this bloke. I can't even bag him. I was wrong. He was absolutely wrong. But Lee Ali has made a very good point because we're going to get back into this team in a moment, that our certain friend Buzz Demiri, pretty quiet tonight, hasn't joined us. How did St Kilda go on the weekend, J-Dog? Can you tell us how they went? Oh, that's right. They lost by 26 points.
It was an interesting game because it come back to bite them, which is, I mean, they were never really in it. No. Let's give Gold Coast their dues. St Kilda were never really in this game at all. Goalless first quarter.
They are a hard team to play at Gold Coast. Outside of the temperature, they are a hard team. They love the contested ball. When you've got Anderson, Atkins, Sam Flanders, spoken about Jared Witts so many times, Will Powell, Lukosius. I haven't even thrown in there Matt Rowell as well. I haven't even thrown in there Ben King. Like, they've got such a good nucleus. And you just want the right person to be able to harness that. Because if they could harness that, oh my goodness, there'd be nothing better than seeing this mob play finals. GWS were able to. Gold Coast, you just love them to be able to take that next step because it's just so awesome to watch. I love everything about them. I love them. Charlie Ballard, like he didn't do anything on the weekend. It didn't matter. They just submission. And it's just another. Who's been more disappointing, you reckon, Gold Coast or St Kilda this year? Who do you reckon, listeners?
That's a good question. It's a hypothetical. My hypothetical is: would Ratton have the team in the same position than what Ross has got them in? Because right now,
I'd say there's no difference.
I don't know.
Jeez, would you imagine Ratton going, see you later, North, I'll go to Gold Coast?
It's not going to happen, but anyway.
You never know.
They're going marquee now.
Yeah, they have to go marquee. And you reckon, I'll throw the rumour up there, Dusty to Gold Coast. AFL would make that happen, wouldn't they?
Why not? They made Melbourne Football Club resurgent with an open checkbook.
Calm down, Tarps. Just calm down, Tarps. All right, don't get jealous.
They wouldn't give us a checkbook like that. Moving quickly along.
Yeah, we'll just move past that. St Kilda, yeah, they're going to miss finals. Tell me what happened, Jamie, at Marvel Stadium when you lost by 50 points, 122-72 against Carlton. Like, how could you describe it? I didn't see this game. I was too busy working at the local footy with a couple of Jack Daniels cans.
You were doing absolutely nothing then. Okay.
Noah.
Carlton bought the heat, and Port Adelaide bought nothing. It was in the first quarter. It was all over. The danger signs were there. I'm pretty reserved. I'm like, let's get through the first quarter. Let's see where we are at the end of the quarter, and then I'm like, let's make the assessment now. Carlton just didn't stop. They were all over us. You had the forwards who were just like, they were dynamite. They were getting out back of Port, and they were gone.
And it wasn't Curnow, and it wasn't Mackay either. It was the smaller guys, Jack Silvani, Motlop kicking 4 each.
Jack Silvani was ripping us a new one. It was just, we were just dominated. We were dominated across every line.
I heard someone say that Tom Jonas should never be put back on a field again.
Yeah, it's probably fair.
It's past him.
Well, it's just it's hard saying when you're like, you probably felt the same with Jonesy. He's the club captain, and you just, it's hard to watch. And you never like to retire.
No, I think
people.
Jonesy was a bit different though because we knew he was on the last legs. Probably but they got him to 300. So that's the
look. There's we as Craig had called early on a Port chat. We really had no one else to really put into that back line. There's some, I don't know. No, you know what? No, Carlton played wonderful. It was a flogging, and the scoreline probably doesn't reflect how much better they were. They kicked 5 points in the first quarter. That could have been 5 goals easily.
Amazing when teams get on a run and teams they miss. We had it against you. You've probably had games this year where teams have got on runs of kicking points, and you're sitting going, "Oh shit, that's no good. That's no good." Because if they kick them, it really makes it worse than it is. So they probably covered a few cracks, but it's probably a loss. I know that's a loss that they had to have, not because of the actual defeat, but maybe the wins were covering up a few of the deficiencies, and you can go back and go, okay, well, what? When you take 7 out, it doesn't make it easy as well. So you've got to keep that.
Yeah, no, I don't think any Port supporter was going into that really realistically thinking we're going to win this game. I think Post had sort of gone, we've kind of put it in the rack this week, and that's okay.
I reckon this was surprising because I actually thought these guys had a massive chance to win on Saturday night. Geelong versus Essendon, but
yes, jeez.
Well,
that is the most terrifying.
On the EK Cougars chat, right? We know a game is going bad. There's only 2 words that come through on the chat. Oh no. When oh no comes on, it's not good. Yeah. When oh no came up about 10 minutes in, it was not good. It was no good. Their They're looking scary at the moment, aren't they, the Cats?
That was one of the most terrifying
First
first
quarter.
quarters I'd seen in a long time from Geelong. More terrifying than last year's terrifying Geelong.
Yeah, they are. I still think last year was. Do you remember when Gold Coast lost to Collingwood, they got like the deer in the headlights? It felt like this might have been a little bit of deer in the headlights as well too. They expected to go down there, and Geelong went, "Come on, little kids, Dave. Come on, mate. You want to play with the big boys?" Well, this is what happens.
But how do you stop these goal scorers? Hawkins, almost 2 metres and about 120 kegs. Stengel, small, fast, cannot tackle, and just kicks goals like unbelievable goals. Blitzars, also another 200-plus centimetre player who can take an overhead mark very well.
And one of those was a tackle
And-
as well too. It wasn't just a freelancer. It was a tackle. It must have been. Yep.
And close kicked close kicked 2 goals himself. How do you stop 5 goal scorers in that structure? You can't. They're all so different.
The backman can't. The midfielders have to work harder. Put the pressure on the ball coming in as well too.
Yeah, it was unreal. It was like Hawkins was vintage Hawkins, pushing the back, mark
But
overhead.
that's just like they had a young kid playing on him. I think it was some young bloke. I don't remember his name. Like he's got to have some pants.
Like Jeremy Cameron didn't kick any. He kicked 1 goal.
Jeremy Cameron hasn't done anything for half a season. He's still taking pieces of Gary Rowan out of his face.
Well, and they kicked 7-5 in the first quarter. Like it is a pretty.
That's
yeah.
I've been on the end of those playing, and I've been on the giving and also the receiving end. And don't say anything, Jamie. And when you come in at quarter time, it's like quiet because there's not much you can do. And when you've kicked that much, there's not much you can do because it's like, well, just let it get easier.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, let's see if we can slow it down a bit. But they couldn't do anything. It happens. It does happen. A few more to get through before we wrap this bad boy up. GWS 5 in a row against. Now, this, I didn't pick this, and I don't know how many people picked their 14-point win. Adam Kingsley, I won't say he's coach of the year, but he'd have to be in the top 3. Because a lot of people picking GWS to finish bottom 4.
Yep. I'm on board with that call.
Definitely on board with what they're serving up because they're older guns. Cornelio's probably played the best football in 4 years this year.
Easily.
Hogan's getting back to his good. Kelly's doing what he's doing. Haynes, he's not as much. Sam Taylor down back. Toby Green, like you couldn't ask for a more inspirational captain. Like they've even got a young bloke like Faye coming in off the bench and slotting him off the boundary line. Like they've got the right coach for the right group, and that's what Gold Coast needs to do. That's what hopefully Clarkson will do with. Geez, they didn't give in. You got to understand they were also around about almost 20 points down at one stage in that last quarter, and they've picked up the last 4 of the game to win.
Unbelievable finish. Yep. And then they blown them out of the water in the last quarter.
And Adelaide played Melbourne this week at the G. No Rochelle. He's been rubbed out for a couple of weeks, and we know that Adelaide don't travel well. So a team that we thought was pretty much one of the best forward lines in the league may end up missing finals altogether because of a lull in the back end of the season.
Yep.
It
was a 5-goal-0 last quarter
at the Adelaide Oval.
At the Adelaide
Oval, and that's the thing that's what goes. Oh, okay. There's something here. There's definitely something there. They were gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And, Sam Taylor, like I said, held text to virtually nothing. And it was funny, they also had on the radio today Mitch Lewis from Hawthorn. They spoke to him about who's your best player you played. He goes, Sam Taylor. Gave me an absolute bath. He's just All-Australian backman. He'll be All-Australian backman again this year. Tell you what, he's playing some pretty good footy. But Harris Andrews, for whatever reason, they've got this chubby about Harris Andrews at the moment, and I don't know what it is. A couple of games to go. Worst game of the year. We won't spend too much time on it. Hawthorn by 48 points over North.
Probably could have been 140.
Could have been.
If Hawthorn could kick straight.
Yep. North are rebuilding. We know that. I think they've got a bit of spunk there. I must admit, they're just going to have to go back to the draft and just get more kids. Just get more. If they can get another Chisel, another Wardlaw, another Phillips, they're going to be in a world spot. I picked Larky.
That was the question you asked me before. Yep. Leading rising star. It was Cheezel.
You reckon?
For me,
I still think
it's Cheese. Yep.
Just because I want him to come in for a multi. And last game of the weekend, West Coast versus Richmond. West Coast are just shit, aren't they? You don't want to kick them.
They put it more of a fight.
They're just no good. It's just no good, Jamie. That's it reminds me of a certain team wearing red and blue. I have to bring them up in 2012 and 13. Like, that's how bad we were. Mark Neal days. They need to make calls. They need to get rid of some of these players and free up some salary cap space. Or what can we get? Who can we trade out to get some capital? Because they're going to get Harley Reid and they'll ruin his career. Just in my eyes. And Richmond, just cruising along to potentially playing finals again. I think they might miss, but you wouldn't want to be playing Richmond in the last week of finals.
No, they're cruising, and Dusty's a bit of vintage Dusty. He's sort of picked up in the last couple of weeks. Tim Kelly had a pretty good game for West Coast.
He's
fighting for form
all year. He's probably out of all the oldies, the only one. But they've got no talent. The older ones aren't working hard enough. They're not doing enough on the field, and it's just everybody's fault.
Would you take Darling on a 1-year contract? Get you one or two every game.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I reckon I would too.
If it was to give someone like Van Rooyen a chop out, yeah, I would.
191 centimetre.
Big boy. He kicked 500th goal on the weekend too. Like, that's pretty good. I didn't see that coming.
31, maybe got another year or two. That's about it.
I don't think that'd be much. But if he was a tie over for a team, I tell you where he'd go all right now, St Kilda. He'd go all right.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I also reckon he'd be pretty good at... Funny enough, like at North, I reckon he'd be good. He'd give Larky a bit of a chop out as well too. But Larky's going all right this year too, so... I don't know. I think if you need a bigger body down forward, he'd be perfect for it as well too. He might even maybe Sydney would be an option as well too, because Buddy goes, who are you going to put in? Logan McDonald's not ready.
Yeah. Not. He'll get you your 30. He'll get you 30 or 40.
They can't play. Oh, sorry, they got lob. Anyway, that's this week's Scoreboard for round 18 of the AFL season. J-Dog, before we finish this 1 week at a time, what game are you looking forward to for round 19 of the AFL season? Only 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 6 rounds to go in this week's fixture.
I'm looking forward to my team's game.
Yep. I reckon
Port Adelaide Collingwood.
I reckon Friday, whoever loses is out of the finals race. Simple as that. Essendon Western Bulldogs, that is going to be a fast game too. Definitely your game. Brisbane Geelong, interesting one. Brisbane can't afford to lose, because then that brings them between just one game clear of the Ds. Actually, no games clear of the Ds if they win.
Well, Brisbane are scary. I want to see how they go against the red hot Cats up at the Gabba.
Exactly right. Your game definitely. I'm looking at good GWS versus Gold Coast. That could be a surpriser as well too. Adelaide, Melbourne, I don't know. St Kilda, North, probably not. So the St Kilda back in the graveyard shift, and they probably deserve it after what they've served up over the last few weeks. But what we have served up tonight on Lace Out is the round 18 super review with the great man, Jamie the J-Dog Wallace, and myself, Chris Pepper. Hey, listen, for everyone who's joined us live on the chat, you've been absolutely sensational tonight. Everybody's joining us live on your favourite podcast host, podcast service.
Hang on. Are you wrapping up now, Peps?
Yeah, it's 1 hour and 8 minutes.
I do not think so, my friend. You've got to wait just one little second.
Why is that?
I've got the Fantail. I've got the Fantail.
Jamie's Fantail quiz. How did we forget?
Yes.
It was a roaring success last week, and we're doing it again this week. All right. Whilst he's preparing that, give us a like, give us a review. There's only 6 episodes for some of you, but then I'll want you to hang around for finals. And then we're going to have a massive end towards the season as well. All right, J-Dog.
All right, Pepper, you are not to answer this question.
Well, how's anybody supposed to...
It's for the listeners.
For the listener question.
It's not for you.
All right.
God, you think it's just all about you these days, isn't it? All right, you ready? Who am I? Oh, sorry, I've actually ripped this up a little bit. Born in California in 1972, she is a former model turned actress. She broke into the movie scene in the 90s with roles in The Mask 94, My Best Friend's Wedding 97, There's Something About Mary 98, and Charlie's Angels 2000. She played the voice of Princess Fiona in Shrek franchise, starring 2001, 2013. Saw her return to the major films Ridley Scott, The Countess, 2013. She became the second actress to join the $20 million club after Julia Roberts when she signed to do Charlie's Angels.
Don't have to go any further because Donna J has got it.
Well, I do not say it out loud.
As everybody knew as soon as you said hair up. Look at that. The Fantails has gone off. I've had more interaction in 3 minutes than podcast has had for the other 109 minutes. The Fantails will be back next week. All right.
People, support the Fantail. Go out there and support the Fantail.
All right. So tune in for my tips on the TikTok channel. Laceout's TikTok channel. It's been going off. People love my TikToks. Don't know why. And tipped out as well too, either on the Thursday or the Friday. It'll be Friday because there's no Thursday night game too. So, and Lee Ali, she's an absolute glamour too. All right. So on behalf of the Laceout team, Peps and J-Dog, have a fantastic weekend. I hope your team wins, and more importantly, great man. Great to have you on the airwaves. Everybody loves to see you, but I have one question. One question only. And it's simply this: Jamie the J-Dog Wallace, the Port Adelaide tragic himself. How do you want your footy?
I want it to lace out.
With a fantail. Have a great week, listeners. See you next week.
See you, listeners.